Hello and welcome to episode 155 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Joining me on today's episode is a previous guest that I had on only a couple of years ago, but I'm absolutely thrilled to have her back on so we can talk more about the brand new release from one of the best bands in the country, Blood Red Shoes, her own podcast, Never Meet Your Idols. It's the one, the only, Laura Mary Carter. I'm absolutely thrilled with today's interview and I can't wait to share it with you in just a few minutes' time. But as always, I do like to touch base and talk about my previous guest. So on the last episode of Mark and Me, I was joined by the amazing Neil Marshall. We got to talk all about his most recent film, but also he brought along Charlotte Kirk, the leading actress in the movie The Reckoning. It was an amazing interview and I've had some incredible response. So as always, thanks to everyone that took the time to listen and I really do appreciate it. But let's get back to today's episode. Laura Mary Carter, one of the nicest people I've ever had on the podcast, and it's so good to have her back. I think the best thing to do right now is to get right to the interview. So here's me and Laura Mary talking all things music. So Laura Mary, thanks for joining me again on the Mark and Me podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you back. It's been about 2 years. It's weird when you look back at your episodes on Spotify and stuff and you realise it's been quite a long time, and obviously the world has gone to shit since we've stopped podcasting together, which is a bit insane.
Yeah, I know. It's a blur, isn't it? It's like this last few years. It's just gone by so quickly.
We've got a lot to talk about today, and obviously because you've already been on the show, I didn't want to talk all about, what made you pick up the guitar and what made you start, writing songs. So what I wanted to do is basically touch base and see how you've been since lockdown and sort of the last 18 months have been. I know we will get to the news that you've got a brand new EP and tour coming, but how's it been for you? I know, have you been able to kind of finish some projects that you've had that were left open, or have you just took the time out to reflect? How's the last 18 months been since we last kind of spoke?
Well, I think like everyone, it was a bit of a shock when everything happened, and like everyone, my sort of whole sort of living and world situation got completely shook up, and it took a little while to sort of adjust and sort of figure out what was going on. But I think after a while I literally put everything into sort of the creative side of myself. I started painting again. It was like that thing when everyone was in lockdown and everyone was like doing all these things where they were just like, I'm painting and I'm doing all this creative stuff, but I continued to do it. And so I started painting again, which was something that I hadn't done for a long time, but I did go to art school, and that was sort of like the first thing that I was doing before music. And then I've started to finish loads of things that I needed to do. I finished a solo EP, which I haven't announced yet, but it's coming out soon.
So a nice little world exclusive for the podcast. That's nice.
Yeah. I've been writing lots of stuff with Steve. We have lots of things to come out, not just the EP. We're just, I can't say any more about that. But we have been doing lots of stuff together, and other than that, I've just like done loads of things that I put off so much in my life, like because I was always touring so much. It's really easy to let things go and like I'll do that another time, or I'll do that another time, and it's really boring stuff. But like I had some debts and things, so I worked out sort of sorting that out and just facing it, and just facing loads of things that I've been putting off from being a complete like touring sort of gypsy.
That's such an adult thing to do. Like you've been mature and like got books out and done spreadsheets on how to pay off your debts.
I know, in a really strange time when like we're not getting any income, but but I think it wasn't even that. It's just like facing some things and like putting stuff in place, which to be honest, I've like just been. It's just something to do with being in a band. You become a bit of a Peter Pan and you just sort of don't do the normal stuff.
Yeah.
So I've done some things that will help me in life, make my life a little bit easier. And I leased a car, so I'm actually like able to drive around now.
You've done so much. This is crazy. You've started to do painting and pay off debts and become an adult. It's frightening.
finally. Well, we'll see how long that lasts,
Yeah,
but
it'll get very boring very quick. You'll go to B&Q and start buying paint for the stairs and stuff, and you'll be like,
that,
no,
yeah,
no, I need to go on the road again.
yeah, totally. I know I'm
And
already getting a bit
bored
like,
already.
yeah.
Oh no. And you talked about Blood Red Shoes and obviously writing more songs. And before the pandemic kicked in, did you have plans with the band to try and write and record new stuff, and then it's been kind of delayed because of it? Or has everything gone to plan with the release of a new EP, which literally is coming out as we're speaking, and the track, you had the single last Friday? Is it all kind of been scheduled for that release, or has everything kind of pushed back because of the pandemic?
Well, we were recording in Los Angeles just before the pandemic. And we were writing, sorry, we were writing, and then we started recording in the UK. Um, and then that stuff got delayed. But then in the meantime, we were like, why don't we just write an EP? Well, we didn't even know if it was an EP. We just started writing some songs and recording it ourselves. And it ended up being an EP. And we were like, why don't, and this is not that long ago. And we were like, why don't we just put this out first and just do it really fast and like just get going? Because I feel like everyone's sort of delaying everything. And we just got to the point where we're like, hang on, let's just put some music out, because we're just going to keep waiting and waiting for something to happen. And we might as well just put some music out into the world.
And with the single Misery Loves Company, is that a true reflection of what people are going to get on the EP, or is that completely different? Is it quite a collective different feel for the band, or is it going to be quite sort of similar to that and a good indication of what to expect from the EP?
And the rest of it is a bit different. Actually, I think the rest of the songs, mostly Steve is singing the main vocal. There's like a song in there that I'm playing bass, which was a new thing.
Yeah.
But it is all quite like rocky. It's like a bit more of a two-piece band, whereas our previous album we sort of experimented a bit more with layers and stuff. But this is just back to sort of more like punky, but it's a bit nastier. It's definitely got a nastier feel.
And with the music you're recording and obviously you've done, do you feel that it will reflect well when you go to then tour it? I know you've announced some dates for the UK for January and Europe. Do you feel that you've recorded stuff that is going to sound like the band that are on the CD or the stream? Do you feel that you've captured it well, knowing that there's just the two of you?
Well, yeah, on the EP, yeah. I think we were like, it'd be really cool to make something that like we can just go out, rock out as two of us. And
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be really, really fun to play this EP. Actually, we were talking about it yesterday, I still Steve, and we were like, it's just going to be so fun, because it's not like, it's just like riffs and like, it's just fun. I just can't wait. And actually, he's singing quite a lot of the songs, so it gives me a chance to like just actually rock out a bit more.
That's cool. And have you enjoyed kind of getting involved in the producing and I know you mixed it yourself, didn't you, as a band, and recorded it yourselves? Was it just the two of you? So you didn't go to the
Yeah.
big studio and do it that way. Do you feel it gives it more of a homegrown, organic feel?
Yeah, we did it above a pub actually, in this
Wow.
like, yeah, this little like rundown room up above a pub that was empty because of the pandemic, so they didn't care about the noise. And yeah, I mean, we've always recorded a lot of stuff ourselves. Like we've like stuff like God Complex, we always put out random singles, and we've always recorded that ourselves and mixed it or whatever. So it's not that new that we've done that, but I think it's just much more direct, because we know what we're doing now. It's just sort of we've been a band so long, and Steve's really great at recording, and we've like accumulated a lot of gear through the years
Yeah.
to be able to do it. So we're quite in a good position where we can just sort of record and put something out. We've got our own label, so it's really direct in a way that we can just do it really quickly. And I think it's nasty because we always like everything to be nastier sounding than maybe when we go in a producer, they want to always sparkle it up a little bit more.
And literally, I was just about to say, is it nice that you're not having that producer come in or the label saying, oh, this doesn't sound quite radio friendly enough. Can you polish it? Can you make it less raw? Is it nice that you can just do what the fuck you want?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've kind of always done what we want. I think earlier on we did have the label going, you need to make this or that. And I think our response was sending the label a 6 minute noise track.
Yeah.
So we've never been great when people say that to us. And so no one ever comes to our recording normally, no labels, no management really.
No.
So they just know what we're like. And actually sometimes it'd be nice to have some input, but joking. But yeah, actually, it depends who you're working with, but I think people do, because we are a little bit weird in how we write and record, and I think people do want to, they don't really get that we actually just want everything to be really nasty sounding, and yeah, they can't help but just try and sparkle it up a bit. So yeah, in that sense it's nice to just do what we want.
And I bet you just can't wait to get out there and start playing again. It's like, I've had quite a few bands on during the lockdown, and it must be just like so frustrating, because if you're still doing your job from home, if you're working in an office or you're a doctor or whatever, most of people's jobs haven't been put on hold. But to play, which is your living and what you live for, you've not been able to go out there. I mean, I was at Download this weekend as a
But you were.
pilot. Yeah. And it was unbelievable just to feel that kind of sensation of sitting there and just having a band play again in front of you, and it just feel normal. But it hasn't felt normal for nearly 2 years for a band to just go out there. And how does it feel about announcing this tour, and it hopefully now, unless they come up with another variant, how does it feel that it's the time is you can do it again, you can put that guitar strap on and plug your instrument in and just fucking rock out again?
Yeah, it's quite surreal really thinking about it. I was looking at the dates and I was like, it just seems so bizarre, but at the same time it's really weird. Like, I think it's given us at least a bit of space to be able to write a lot of music. Like, we have a lot of music written now. And personally, just for my solo stuff, I've kind of finished a project that I wanted to finish for ages. And I'm still doing more stuff now, like I'm ahead of time, if that makes sense,
Nice.
of release. And that feels really good, because a lot of the time we are one of those bands that have just like toured constantly, and we sort of have to find gaps to write. And there is something to be said for having some space and having some reflection on stuff, where you can actually like write a song, record it, and then like have a bit of time and go back to it and say, actually, and we've never had that luxury. So in that sense, that's been really good. Obviously it's really hard not playing, because that's what we do, but we're also really used to having no stability, never knowing when you're going to get paid, never knowing what, even like what country we're going to be in, or I don't know. I feel like there's
Yeah.
something about the uncertainty in what's been going on in the world that we've been able to adapt to, maybe a bit more than someone that is used to the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
um it's been really hard, don't get me wrong, but I was trying to see there's some positives in it, because it's like, well, we are used to not being able to, like, we are used to living off hardly any money, or like sometimes, or not having a schedule. So we've been all right. I mean, I think it's definitely getting to the point now where like seeing other people playing has made us feel like getting that itch again. Like, we really can't wait to do it. But yeah, we've just been quite, trying not to think about it too much, I guess, because otherwise you just get really worked up about it. And now that we've got the tour booked in, it feels hopeful, and just feels like stuff's happening, and having some plans. Again, plans are important to sort of feel like you're moving forward.
I think it feels real now. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
bands that were postponing tours. So I had tickets for 2 years ago to see Faith No More and Biffy Clyro, and it got put off for a year. And at the time, you're like, okay, no problem. And Download Festival and stuff. You're like, okay, well, it'll be in 2021. And then it was like,
Yeah.
they've been put off again for another 6 months. And you think, fucking hell, is this ever going to happen? But just the last couple of weeks, because of the festival that's happened, and these gigs are happening now in November and December, it does feel real. It feels like the light at the end of the tunnel is now actually there. And this gig and this tour you're doing in January is going to happen. It's, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it must be surreal now to think of, you must be like, I've forgotten how to play live. It's
Yeah,
been a
I
long
know.
time.
Well, we have got a festival in July, and Why Not Festival, and I don't know for what's going on with it. I mean, it hasn't been cancelled, so I was thinking, oh my God, that's really soon. Like, we need to like
You might start
rehearse.
practicing, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I haven't played like really loud guitar in a while, apart from doing the recording and stuff. So that's gonna be interesting. When Steve starts playing drums, I'll be like, "Oh, stop it!"
Yeah,
It's too
just
loud.
let's just do an acoustic.
Yeah.
I'll just do my solo stuff. Yeah, go away, Steve. And during the lockdown and the last few months, and obviously you've launched your own podcast with your friend, and it's Never Meet Your Idols podcast.
Yeah,
How
that's been
did this? How
interesting.
did this all come about?
Well, my friend Corey and I were like really good friends, and when we used to live like opposite each other in LA, the same street, and we were always just like, we need to. She's in a band too, Queen Kwong, and we've played together, and we've always sort of done a few things together. But we're like, we need to do something that's like positive during this time that we can like build upon, and just we went through all these different ideas, and then we thought maybe we should do a podcast because it would just be easier because I'm not near her now, and so we could do it, like from different places.
Yeah,
So we thought, okay, let's do that, try that, and we thought of all these ideas, and then we came up with. First of all, it was going to be like tour stories because I realized I have the most insane tour stories. So musicians must have plenty of other insane stories. But then we sort of somehow our ideas combined, and we ended up with Never Meet Your Idols, about talking about idols meeting their own idols. And I don't know how, but we're on season 2, near the end of season 2.
have you found it? I know as a podcaster, talking to a podcaster, editing is an absolute arse and takes
Oh
the
my
fun
gosh.
out of everything you ever do. As much as the recording can go well and the interview and the chat can be brilliant, the editing is like, oh, why am I doing this?
The editing is hardcore. The editing
Welcome to
is
the
like,
pain. It doesn't go away
it,
either.
no, I didn't. I mean, in the beginning, it was all over the place. We were both just like, oh my God, this sounds awful. Like, but now, I've got used to it, but it's still a pain. It depends how long the interview is, but there's a lot of work that goes into podcasts that just people don't know. It's the same with music. You just get the product and you think, oh, great, but actually, there's been so much work put behind that.
And what's really good is obviously you said you're just doing season 2, and you've been going for under a year, but you've had like the Black Keys on, who are an amazing
Yeah.
band, Royal Blood, who are probably the biggest British band out there right now, who are number one and just absolutely killing it. Refused to, well, it's Refused, and there's nothing else to say. They are the perfect band. How are you finding speaking to these members of bands and hearing their stories for the first time and kind of being in the zone and kind of captured in the conversation? Do you absolutely adore it and find it fascinating?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I mean, a lot of the guests are our friends, so
Yeah,
it's cool to sort of talk to them though about stuff that you wouldn't normally like ask, and not like, because usually they're your friends, you see them at festivals, you see them around or whatever, but it's usually in an environment of music in some kind, so you're not going to go and ask like these kinds of questions. So it's actually like getting to know somebody that you already kind of know. um and it's, yeah, I find it really interesting because I just never know who people are going to pick, and that's like when they're talking about their idols and stuff, and it's always really interesting, their sort of experiences. And as a musician myself, I sort of fascinated by it. um so yeah, it's really fun actually.
and is there a list of, I mean, you might be different to me, but when I started Mark and Me, I did a list of people that were like, these are the people I really want on the podcast, like
Mm.
more than anyone. You've got Zach Schneider coming on. By the time people are listening to this, you'd have done that episode. You've got some huge names, but was there individually some people that would mean a lot to you to have on the podcast that are your dream guests?
My dream guest is probably, well, there's quite a few, but I would love to have Courtney Love.
Oh
But
my God.
I mean, I haven't even attempted it because
No.
that is like one of my main idols. So it'd
She's in
be,
London as well.
I know she's in London. I know. This is the thing. Um, but I just don't know how that would go, whether it would change whether it's like never meet your idols. Maybe I should never meet my
Yeah,
idol.
take the advice of your own podcast name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Courtney Love would be incredible. The stories that she'd be able to share, but
Yeah.
my God, is there anyone that, I'm not saying Courtney Love wouldn't do it, but is there someone that you're going after or that you hope to get on that could be realistic and you could see it coming and being a genuine guest in a few months' time?
I don't know, to be honest. Because we're sort of wrapping up season two, like there's people that we've thought about, but we haven't actually like we're because we're musicians ourselves, we're really slack
Yeah,
with
last
plan.
minute. Oh, we better do an episode. Who's available?
Yeah.
They'll do. Yeah.
And
Well,
also, like, I like that who we've had on there because it's a real mix of different
yeah.
people. It's not like there are people that we could obviously get on the podcast, but I sort of like the idea that it's sort of like completely random people that we have. You know, there's like all the indie scene in the UK. I could definitely get some people from that, but I'm just, you know what, I kind of like that we don't.
No, it's good, and I love the fact that you are literally going to get Zack Schneider. It's just such a fucking big name. It's like
So random.
it's so random, but people will be so envious. He's genuinely probably the biggest filmmaker in the world in the last couple of years with all the DC stuff that's gone on, and it's my God, it's I don't think you
Yeah.
realize just how good that is.
I know. I don't think either of us do, and I think part of the reason why he's agreed to be on it is because neither of us know anything about him. it's like, it's like we're not. We're just like, oh, okay, he's made some films, cool.
It'll
Like,
be interesting.
yeah, and I think that's part of the podcast appeal is like we're not really that starstruck about certain
No.
things. I mean, we obviously have our own idols and things like that, and I think coming from it a different angle might be why it's interesting, especially with interviewing him because we're totally not in that world and know nothing about it, so we might come at it at a different angle.
I'm excited for it. I think it'd be really refreshing not to have the DC person who's a real big fanboy that'll be asking specifically about the
Yeah.
colour of a helmet he wore at this scene and all that. I like the fact that you're going to just see how it goes and just have a nice general chat with him. I can't wait. I'm very jealous.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, it's exciting.
And are you going to do season 3, or are you going to carry on doing the stuff with the band and then look at it in maybe 6 months?
I think no, I think we'll do season three. I think we just want to break from the editing for a little bit.
Yeah, it's the
um,
worst.
and but no, we've got plans of it. I feel like people are starting to notice it now, and it's a really nice feeling to have like almost like it's up now, like it's going to be there. People can listen and find it, and I really like the idea of it being the body of work. And I also really like the sort of instantness of it. Like that was partly what inspired me to do with the EP that Blubber She just put out, and we put it out just like straight away at random. And I feel like partly that was to do with enjoying so much when we've done the podcast, we've done the interview, and then we'll edit it, and then the next day it's out. Like there's something about it, the sort of instantness of it sort of going out is quite satisfying.
Yeah, it is. It's worth all the editing and the hard work and the prep when you hit that publish button and then it's out for the world to see. And I look at it as,
Yeah.
I know my podcast has been going nearly 5 years, but I look at it like as my little journal and a little diary and
Yeah.
little entries. And if I die in 10 years, it'll always be on iTunes or Spotify as my little document of where I was at that point in my life and who I was talking to. So I kind of like that. It leaves like a little history of myself.
Definitely. And like I think it's also like the other thing that appeals to me, I part of it is like music. You make music a lot of the time and you have to wait on it for so long.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these things like, got to put it out this month before, and we got to like, it's all this stuff. Like a lot of the time you're waiting months and months. So you've made the record and you just want to put it out and you can't. So it's really, yeah, I love the fact that you just like make it, do it, and then it's out for the world.
And even though we're backtracking now and talking a little bit back to music, with your, exclusive on here that you've announced that you're going to be bringing out a solo album, how did that come about? I know obviously you're in lockdown and you've been having ideas and it's been the best time to get all these projects that you've probably had on the cards for a while, but is that going to be very different to anything you've released before? Is it going to be a completely different stripped down, or is it still quite full and quite heavy, or is it going to be acoustic and mellow? What's the kind of things that fans are going to expect?
Well, I've been working on my own music for a long time. And it came about like, I don't know, years ago now. I wrote a couple of songs that were completely different to what I'm used to doing in Blubber Cheese and what I'm known for. And it was a bit unexpected for me as well, just because I was singing in a bit of a different way, and it was totally not guitar driven, it was vocally driven. And I've just been working on it for ages, and it's been a really slow process just because it's such a new territory for me that I'm kind of exploring what I could do. And so I was taking my time with it, and then life happens, and obviously the band like takes up a lot of time sometimes when we're touring and stuff. So it hasn't always been like on my priority list. But since COVID happened, it was like, okay, this is now on my priority, and started writing. I started writing stuff that was fitting in with the stuff I'd done ages ago, and I've just been working on it bit by bit, and really happy with it. But it's totally different sound. It's like, I suppose you could call it Americana slightly. Um, it's a lot to do with the lyrics, the vocals. It's got some guitar-y moments in it, but it's not like a guitar-y record. It's a bit more different. But there's like full band and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but I feel like it's just taken me a while to sort of sit with it and think, okay, is this right? And then I decided, like, I've got these songs, I'm going to put an EP out, and then I'm going to follow it up after that with an album and stuff. And I just keep working on that because there is just like another side to me musically that I don't get to do in the band. And I think it's healthy to, at this stage as well, being in a band for 17 years, and we both do our own things. Steve's really working on producing music. He's produced loads of bands, and
Yeah.
he's doing really well with it. And so for me, it's like I want to do my sort of other side of music, which doesn't interfere with the band because it's totally different world of genre, I guess. And it's sort of inspired a lot by photos I've been taking over the last few years. Because I did a lot of traveling around the States and sort of into the wilderness and random sort of broken down towns. And I've done a lot of like camping out in the middle of nowhere and taking a lot of photos along with that. And a lot of the songs are references to that time, and sort of, yeah, it's just a bit more intimate and more of, I guess, I can sing about my own experiences and feelings because it's not in a band with someone else, you know? So
It sounds quite similar to. Have you heard the latest Hayley Williams album from Paramore?
I haven't, no.
Right, so when anyone says a Paramore, you think of this poppy kind of band that have obviously been quite heavy and then they've gone quite poppy. But she broke away and during lockdown wrote a solo album and then another solo album. And people were really surprised, like Taylor Swift, and released it like you said we could with Blood Red Shoes. You can just release it overnight and no one's like, what the fuck, I wasn't expecting that. But it's nothing like Paramore. It's stripped down, it's acoustic, it's herself, it's doing everything she wants to do away from the band, talking about experiences that she hasn't been able to do with the band, no pressures from a big label, and just doing what she wants. And I
Yeah.
recommend it, I really do. Whenever says someone like,
Okay.
oh, it's the singer from Paramore, you wouldn't know it's the singer of Paramore. It's really stripped down. It's got like, it sounds like Bon Iver in parts.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. It's folky, it's acoustic, it's unbelievable, and she plays every instrument herself and you'll be blown away by it. And what you're talking then, I was thinking this is quite similar, you know, the fact that you can break away, do your thing. And are you going to surprise everyone and just kind of release it overnight? Are you going to go for that approach?
I don't know yet. I think, it will come out quite soon, but I think it's going to be a bit of a different approach in every manner. I want to sort of go about it in a different way to the band.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure yet, but I've been working on sort of like figuring that out at the moment. But yeah, totally. Like, I think when you're talking about Hayley Williams, I think people just always sometimes, you're known for something, and so they sort of write you off as that's all that you can do. But when you're a musician, and if it's like, been your life and stuff, there's so many more sides to you that, not everyone, I'm sure, but for me, I think, there's like a side to me that people wouldn't expect and probably know about. So might as well put it out there for maybe some people that might like that kind of thing.
And if it goes down well and people have a good reception to it, are you prepared to go and tour and take this out with a band and then release this music for the people to see live?
Yeah, definitely. I have done some solo shows
Yeah.
already in the past, but it was like me sort of like figuring some stuff out, kind of part of a process of me just sort of thinking like, how is this going to work? But I feel like in a much better, like, okay, very sure of it now of what I'm doing. So yeah, I think so, definitely. I think that I will do some shows. I'd like to do some interesting shows, maybe not in a sort of standard venue. I think it would
Nice.
suit something a little bit different, and maybe do sort of an exhibition of my photos
Well,
on the
that's the
side
thing.
of it.
Yeah, you literally just mentioned about how influenced it was by these different landscape photos you've taken while being out in the wilderness and seeing all the
Mm.
different landscapes and different areas of, in America and stuff while camping out and stuff. Like, would you accompany it with a book, or maybe a way that we can see this artwork and these photos that then we realise the backing of these songs that have been written about? Because it sounds, for me personally, I would love to sit there, listen to this EP you've done, and have the collection
Mm.
of photos at hand or online to look at and see what's inspired these songs.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think I'm definitely going to do some prints, and yeah, possibly a book. I think, you know, a lot of it is like a lot of sort of nowhere towns, and sort of, I think that's just the theme among this record.
Yeah.
And it's partly because I also grew up in a sort of in a suburb of London, but it's like it's kind of nowhere town. And I've always been a little bit into finding places like in the middle of nowhere. And mostly the photos are the States. There's other stuff around the world, but yeah, I think that would be cool. I think I'm going to definitely try and do that, and at least have like maybe an exhibition alongside a show, or I'm going to try and do something interesting, I think.
I can't wait. It's really, it really exciting. It's kind of like juiced me up, and now I'm like, oh, but it's going to be a long time yet, and I don't know when it's going to be or how I'm going to get to see these images or anything. But it sounds really exciting. I mean, you're going to be very busy, I think, over the next sort of 6 to 12 months with touring and the new release for Blood Red Shoes, your own solo stuff, an art gallery, hopefully with some of these prints, maybe a book. You're probably not going to find much time to sleep.
Yeah, I hope so, because I like being
You've had
busy.
enough sleep now, yeah.
Yeah, I've had enough. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Like it feels really good as well, releasing Blurred Shoes and like getting that going again. And all of it is, all of it kind of goes into the same, like everything helps each other. And it's like when you're a creative person, it's quite hard, you don't want to be stifled. And so I think the best thing to do is just, keep creating and keep putting positive things out there. And that's all you can do, really.
One of my final questions for you today is, there will be people listening today that are songwriters or musicians or people that are just wanting to start and will be big fans of yours and Blood Red Shoes. What advice do you give to people that are trying to get their music heard? I know the internet's insane now with Spotify
Mm.
and YouTube and Instagram, and you can get your music out there, but what advice do you give to those people that are really struggling to keep on going and, get their music heard?
It's a hard one because everyone's trying to get the music heard. I mean, even at our stage, you still want people to hear it, like get it out there more and get people to hear it. But I think it's just the thing is, there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no rhyme or reason why one band gets like more hits and all that. It's like you just don't know. It's like a bit of luck in a sense. But
Yeah,
I do think that if you're writing songs that you truly believe in, that are true to you, and you're not trying to follow a trend and try and write something that is you think is going to get hits or people are going to like, and I think that's a thing that people can fall into, is trying to write a song that you think is going to be heard, like people would want to hear, and it will blow up, because that doesn't ever work. I think you have to stay true to yourself, write songs that you like first, as the first thing, what you like and what you're happy with and proud of. And I think it always translates. I think, the audience aren't stupid. People can smell when, it's not coming from a true place.
yeah.
So that's my advice, is to always just do this, like just write songs that you like and not worry about anyone else. Put it out there. It might not blow up overnight. It might not, get many hits, but at some point, someone's going to hear that and it will like mean the world to them. And they'll tell someone else and they'll tell someone else. And I think that's the way to look at it, because there is no real there's no master plan behind getting your music heard. I don't, especially now. I think it's really just no one. I don't think there is any like sort of formula or anything. It's all a bit crazy. So that's all you can really do is sort of just write the songs that you're proud of and put it up there, and you just don't know what could happen with that.
My very final question today, and this has changed since you last came on the podcast, is what I've done to make it a bit different is the guest that comes on the podcast gets to choose the outro piece of music. It can be from a band, it can be from a film score, it could be a piece of music that you grew up that you loved. It's usually more difficult for people in bands, directors of films and actors and stuff are like, yeah, I know which one, but is there a song that means a lot to you? And it doesn't have to be from Blood Red Shoes or yourself. It can be a song that you love from another band that you would love to be the outro piece of music to your episode and your interview today, that once the interview's all wrapped up and we do the outro, it then plays and you think is a perfect song for you.
The first thing that comes to mind is My Bloody Valentine song.
Yeah.
I think I always come back to this song. It's called Soon. I think it's the last track on Loveless.
Okay.
Not entirely sure of that, but it's called Soon. It's quite a long track, so you might want to not play.
No, I let people. There was a director that recently picked a 16-minute Yoko Ono song, and it was like,
wow.
Okay, well, we'll let you do that. Everyone was like, wow, this is a really long interview. I'm like, well, it's not, to be honest. Like, the last 15 minutes is pure music, so don't worry, it's fine if it's a long track. I would rather not cut it down and let you have the full unedited song, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think I always thought if I ever wrote a movie, so if you ever think like that, I was thinking if I ever wrote a movie, I'd really want this song in it or something like that. I just think it's a really cool, it's just got a feeling that it gives me when I hear it, and it's not really, it's not like a songy song, but none of my Valentine songs are like that. But yeah, it just has an amazing feeling, and it sort of is like melancholy but uplifting at the same time.
Awesome. I want to say a massive thank you for coming back on the podcast, and we won't leave it as long next time when you come back. And I'm really excited by what's coming your way. I think the fact that you've got this new music out, and you did just literally release the video and the EP and the single, and it was like, oh my god, I love what bands are doing. I know in the old days it would be going to HMV and buying the CD single and then waiting for the album and all this, but that's not the way we live now. And I love the way you did it and kept it under wraps. And now you've announced a tour, and now the solo stuff's coming, and I love what you're doing, and I just don't want you to stop anytime soon. So I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you are just ready to carry on, because you're a great person. I love the podcast, I love everything, so just keep on going.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on here, and I hope that you have a good time with the rest of the guests, and I really appreciate you asking me back.
So there's my interview with me and Laura Mary Carter. So great to have her back on the podcast, and an absolute pleasure to interview. I absolutely love what she's doing with the band Blood Red Shoes. I can't wait to hear the solo stuff that she's promised on this interview. But not only that, her podcast itself, you need to go and check it out. It's only just finished season 2, and it's called Never Meet Your Idols. Go and check them out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed, and has some of the best guests out there. Also, as you're listening to this, as we discussed on that interview, the brand new EP from Blood Red Shoes is out right now. It's absolutely fantastic, and you will not regret listening to it. Honestly, it's amazing, and I can't wait to see them next January on tour in the UK. Check them out, you will absolutely love them. I really hope everyone that's tuned in today has really enjoyed this interview as much as me. If you're new to Mark and Me and this is the first time you've listened, I have another 154 episodes waiting for you right now. They're all free, and I have a huge range of guests. If you really want to support the podcast, all I ask is that you share the episode. Go onto your Facebook, your Twitter or your Instagram. It costs absolutely nothing to do, and just hit that share button. It means all your friends on your network or all the people you follow will see this, and brings a whole new audience to the podcast, and is so crucial for me in marketing and getting the name of Mark and Me out there. It really does cost nothing, and I appreciate it so much. If you want to find the links, they're all available on markandme.com. But not only that, I do have a Patreon page and a Ko-fi page. If you want to support the podcast and say thanks for today's interview or any of the interviews you've listened to, you can go on there and literally any money that you put into the podcast goes right back in. It gives me then a way to do more and more interviews, which means more and more podcasts for you out there. But not only that, thanks to my friends at Last Exit to Nowhere, who easily give us the best t-shirts in the game, and the amazing Vice Press, who have the best posters out there. They give me prizes every single month to give away and to say thank you for your support on this podcast and via Patreon. So if you sign up on there, you could find yourself winning one of the best t-shirts or posters available. I'll be back in only a few days with a brand new episode. As always, it's not slowing down anytime soon, and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Thanks again to everyone that's listened today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Go and listen to Blood Red Shoes, and I'll speak to you all in just a few days' time.